Welcome to the Performance Zone. My name is Dan Alexander, your host, and today I'm joined by Simon Curtis. Now, Si and I, we've known each other for quite a while, both external consultants, guns for hire, but we come at things from a very different angle, right? Si, you're very much like an operations type lens, and obviously I'm coming from a performance and sales lens. What we've found is that when we're talking to one another, we often meet at the same point in the middle, right? And our conversations get very, very, very deep. So look, welcome to the show, mate. How are you? How's things?
Good, buddy. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Everything's getting a bit brighter and lighter, and we're doing the typical British thing of focusing on the weather. So at the moment, sun's out. I'm good.
You're down in sunny Bournemouth as well, aren't you?
Yeah, man. 5 minutes from the beach. Been in this morning. 5 degrees. It's nice and chilly.
Do you get like, is it annoying, like, as a local when everyone flocks to your town when it's sunny and just like jams everything up?
I've lived here 3 years now, and we kind of come down there. It was a bit of like a lifestyle move. We wanted like our kids to have like more of an active outdoor lifestyle, more things to do like on their doorstep. Because before we lived just outside of Reading, in a really like rural area where the only thing to do is really go for a walk in the woods, which you kind of get bored of after a while. But yeah, in the beach, like when the sun comes out, it's always busy. It's busy with local people. It's busy with people coming from far. The only time it kind of gets nuts and you can't really move is when the air festival's on, and literally at that point, like there isn't a single parking space anywhere. But definitely, I don't know. It's not like I lived in Ibiza, which is obviously like mad, like tourist place, but it doesn't have the same vibe. You don't feel like you're getting like invaded by foreigners or anything. It's you just kind of know and accept that it's one of the kind of coolest spots in the UK if you want to go to the beach and you haven't got the time to go down to Cornwall, where it's arguably nicer. Um,
It's a nice beach around that way. My nan used to live in Bournemouth of all places. I spent a bit of time there as a kid, and yeah, like whenever you go to like Brighton Beach, I always find Rocky Beach is so disappointing. It's just not what you want, is it?
it's not the same. And slowly, I am kind of working on it, but slowly it's becoming like a recruitment celebrity retirement village, and anyone that's kind of done any sort of like big cash in has ended up moving down this way. I won't name names, but you might find some of them in the local paper.
Yes, fair enough. Fair enough. Look, good to have you on, mate. I'll pre-frame this with like, I don't really believe in markets per se, right? I think that market conditions are the same for each business, and it's kind of like if it's raining on a football pitch, like it's the same for both teams in that space. But and recessions in general, like that term describes the overall net positive, net negative, or net negative of the entire of every industry, right? But there are some industries that have had a really good year last year. Some that are absolutely, on their knees and still recovering. And I guess it depends on where you're coming from, what you're seeing. But I would say it feels as if there's a bit of a turn in our industry, which is very tidal, right? Based on how the rest of the world is doing. What are you seeing out there?
I definitely see more positive signs. Like at the moment, I'd say for the last 6 to 8 weeks, don't want to tie that necessarily to a particularly orange fella in the White House. But since the few days before that, I've definitely been noticing a lot more positive news, more positive traction. But it's interesting you said about the rain on the football pitch thing. Because look, I wasn't necessarily around. I started in recruitment in 2005. I wasn't around for the dot-com thing, the dot-com crash, but I was around for the financial crash, was around during COVID, etc., when you've got factors impacting the market, like big, like global factors, if you want.
Mm.
The last 2 years, so like I'd say back in the 2022 through till the start of this year, has been the strangest market to try and put your finger on exactly what's impacting it. Because for me, it's been the first time that there's been multiple factors at play. You had the banks crash in America, recession in general, like everything shifted to like a job focused market pretty much in any sector. I haven't heard of any particular industries that are still swamped with vacancies, even in places like healthcare, like NHS, etc. But there's been multiple factors at play. You've got the economy, you've got, I guess, a bit, I'd call it, without getting too political, a bit of global disruption. Money's obviously become more expensive to borrow, so you've kind of got that financial aspect at play, which has stifled like innovation and investment. But then on top of that, you've got technology too. So it's sort of going back to your football example, it's kind of like, it's not just raining, it's like, but it's windy too. There's hail. Some people have got their shoelaces tied together, and the goalkeeper's got no gloves. So for me, that's been, I think it was unnerving for everyone, because it's like, look, where's this coming from, and when's it going to end? Because you couldn't necessarily pinpoint it down to one factor. It was just this whole cumulative thing, and it's how it made a lot of people feel. And I think it made a lot of candidates in particular feel like maybe now's not the best time to move jobs. So I genuinely think it impacted churn, and that if it impacts churn, that impacts like backfills and new vacancies, etc. So that's my
like the environment, like it does underpin everything actually, and I think there's multiple factors that can come from that environment piece, where you've got like outside factors that you can't control, global events, etc. Right, but then there's also internal factors and things that you are more in control of. And I think in the seat that you're in now, you're I guess looking at things from a certain perspective, because when you're setting things operationally, for a business, you're really setting the conditions of the football pitch, right? So like it's easier to give your keeper gloves than it is not, right? But how many of these people are being like reset up to fail by these businesses because simple things aren't implemented and rolled out properly, and small things can have such a big impact for businesses. How many people actually do you think really know what they're doing when it comes to operations?
So I don't want to speak like broadly for operations. So I would generally, so I know a lot about operations and also different operating models. I've worked in contingent and contract, perm, search, and more recently I've got involved with like some real super high volume temp businesses in different sectors. So I'd say my knowledge is quite wide and varied, but where I'm at now is more looking at the use of technology, more specifically Bullhorn. So I'm working with Bullhorn customers to help optimize the performance of their sales teams, put better information at their fingertips, drive the right behaviors, drive the right processes, have better intel at a management level, and also look to capitalize on automation and AI, which is the kind of hot topic at the moment. But it's really difficult to, I'd say, to get right, and I'd say more so in the last 12 months, because I think a lot of the technology choices that have been made around technology have been made in a way that's completely reactive. I call it like magpie syndrome. It's like you see something shiny and new that does something and maybe does it faster, better, more of it than you do at the moment, and you immediately think, cool. Like take mail shots is like probably the best example. It's like, okay, cool, we're going to start doing loads of email campaigns, and we're going to expect like, that means we're going to pull more jobs, we can get to more people. And initially it probably did have a bit of an impact, but now people are starting to see that drop off. So now they're pulling on other tools. What can I do? And a lot of the conversations I'm having at the moment is like, I've got this particular problem. There must be technology out there, AI, automation, chat GPT, whatever it is that can help me solve this. And you and I got talking the other day, and it's like my answer to one particular client is like, you don't need technology to solve this problem. What you need is your effectively your managers to be more on top of like what your consultants are doing. And it literally was as simple as that. They were so hell-bent focused on we need more new clients. We need more new clients. Let's do email campaigns to get those new clients. But the reality is, like, these guys are swamped with jobs. They're swamped with new, and they get inbound jobs all day, almost all day long, but they only fill 25% of what they bring in. So it's like, my response was, well, before you look for more new jobs, of which you're only going to fill 1 in 5 and spend all this money and effort on email campaigns, why don't you focus on, like, converting more of the jobs that you've already got? Because it's kind of there to be had. And it's like, if they filled 5% more of what they had, it's worth like £1 million to their bottom line. And I think that's where you and I are kind of aligned on the behaviours conversation. And I feel like we're a bit of a crossroads at the moment, where people quite often looking for like technology to solve all of their problems, whether it's at work or in life. Whereas, to me, I see technology as an enabler. I don't see it as like the solution. I see it as an enabler and something you should blend with very traditional skills, like the skills that I was taught at S3 when I started.
What would you say is, like, on that side of things? What would you say is the biggest mistake that you see most often people making?
I'd say emotional purchases of technology. Right. And by that, what I mean is really sort of one or two things. Right. So take, like, say, the RecWide group that we're in, yeah. Like, one of the chats that's literally like a constant, to the point it becomes like a bit of an in-house joke, is, we're thinking about moving CRM. Does anyone have any recommendations? And my response is always the same, which is, what are the problems that you're trying to solve that your current technology doesn't do for you? And no one's ever really able to answer the question with any real substance. The response is normally falls into like sort of like one of two boxes. Most commonly, it's the consultants don't use it, so we're going to switch to something new. And because it's shiny and new, the belief is they'll use it. Or it's just like, I don't know, we're not getting the right level of support. But quite very rarely does it come down to like any like real functional problems of, I know we've got a temp business, the super high volume, we're placing people on day shifts, and we're really struggling to process like the compliance, onboarding, payroll piece. It very rarely comes down to something you can really put your finger on. And then what you see tends to happen is, whether it's the CRM as a whole, or whether it's like a little widget plugin, is you go and do the kind of beauty parade of all the new providers, and you're not really looking to solve the core problems that you really have. It's like, well, what's the reason why they're not using the system at the moment? Because if you just plug something new in, there's no guarantees that they're going to use it. I'm sure you'll have a push for a bit, but probably in 6 to 12 months' time, you're going to have the same problem again. And based on the feedback you get from the sales floor, you're probably going to think, oh, it's just, maybe we need to change again. I spoke to an independent recruiter once who had, the guy's working solo, he had 3 different CRMs.
What?
It's 3 different CRMs. And so I think
one for
the most common mistake is
ATS.
So what I'm saying, I guess what I'm saying more broadly is, there doesn't really seem to be a strategy for technology, and how technology is going to enable your strategy to enable your sales team, or to enable your strategy to deliver a particular customer experience. And as a whole, I feel the industry is so far behind almost every other sector as far as like delivering a digital experience is concerned. There's a few exceptions to that rule, but on the whole, we're still working in very traditional ways, but have maybe become over dependent now on things like email, in-mail, and almost this kind of like permission-based outreach, rather than, okay, so this is a bit of a curveball example, but if you look at someone like Amazon or Facebook, granted they're like absolute behemoths of companies, But the reason they're able to deliver a good experience to their customers is they track every single interaction that you have on that particular website. So they can push you products that you're interested in, or send you photos that they know you'll like, or friend requests, or whatever it is. I'm not really on Facebook, so I'm probably a bit like football. I'm not the best person, qualified person to talk about it. But they understand all of the behaviors of their customers and that therefore focused on delivering the best experience. It's arguable now that as recruiters, we've kind of shifted from, if you think about market intel in generals, that used to be just conversational intel. I speak to my candidates, I speak to my clients, I find out what's going on in the market, what's hot, what's not, what's changing, where are the skills gaps, where can I put contractors, where's the perm staff needed, etc. Like just broadly in those terms. But now what's changed, particularly in the last 10 to 15 years, so this ain't like a right now thing, but is how much information is out there that has a digital footprint that is online. And we've all got these tools. Everyone's got like Lusher or Zoom Info or whatever it is to gather. You used to have to get, we used to have a sheet at Huxley, and you had a lead sheet in front of you, and you'd write down your manager names and you'd write down their email. And if you didn't get their email, you had to phone the reception at the place and like make up a story that, I know, your email bounced or you forgot it. You know where I'm coming from. And you had to get their email. Whereas now it's like, I can get that at a click of a button. I don't believe we've really like adapted our behaviors and the way that we operate, particularly for businesses that are, say, like over 30, 40 heads, to adapt to this new availability, new technology. And now AI's dominated the conversation for the last 2 years. Everyone's looking to AI for like the solution to all their problems.
Need a moment to catch your breath? Ready to go from good to unstoppable? At Bamboo Performance, our one-on-one coaching, exclusive live events, and dynamic online recruitment training platform help recruiters smash every target every time. Visit our website now and discover your highest potential. Let's get back to the show. I think you're bang on, mate. I think there's from my perspective, right? Because we're coming from completely different angles, but we've ended up at the same point. Because I'll give you an example. I was on with a company recently, and they basically the people aren't picking up the phone, right? So he said, all right, okay, I want to do some training. X, Y, Z. So, okay, well, why are they not picking up the phone? There's a couple of reasons for that. But the first is like, is it a skill or is it a will problem? That do they want to? Okay, if they've got everything they need, then they should be able to just pick up the phone and like list mentality and go through it. But the issue was, I said that word list mentality. He goes, oh, Dan, can you come and help us like get that into our people, like that list mentality? So before we do, let's jump on you and I, because I just want to see what it is that I'm asking them to work with, right, and how that works. And the system that they'd chosen was designed around AI. It's like a new system, never heard of it before. I imagine a lot of these things will crop up, but it only had a Kanban view. It didn't have a list view, and it was terrible. And I said, so if I want to click it, if I want to find that guy's phone number, how do I get it? He goes, well, you got to click on the record. So I've got to navigate away from that page to go into another page to then find the record, and then got to come back, and then got to get stuck on something. So really, I said the system's not fit for purpose. Like you might have a nice little chatbot in the corner that you can type in and say, when was David's birthday, whatever you want, or how much, what languages does he code in, and it might tell you. But fundamentally, there's a huge disconnect. And I look at that, and I look at a lot of the products that we work with day to day, and a lot of CRMs as well, actually. And I think, who made this? Who designed it? Who like that leads tracker thing? Like, I think for most CRMs, BD is an afterthought for most CRM systems. It's not like driving the business.
It's really interesting you used like the pick up the phone example, because look, I only hung my boots up recruiting about 18 months ago, and phone would always be my first choice, I was working the US market at the time, so I didn't pick up the phone, SMS, then email, right? And the weird thing was, it was always easy to stand out. Like if someone picked up, they were almost a bit taken aback that you weren't emailing first, and so it was a kind of like an easy way to stand out again, as long as you had a credible intro pitch, etc. But this whole pick up the phone thing, I 100% agree with. Yeah. So the message, oh, cold calling is dead, whatever bollocks, right? Is you rip that back to, okay, well, as a business, how are we enabling you? Because it might not be a will thing whatsoever. It's like, are we putting you in the best position to be able to pick up the phone when your desk is cold, when you've got no jobs on, you don't have any good leads, whatever, and you're in that kind of like deal paralysis? It's like, where am I going to find that information? Because if I can't, and I know tons of people who can't, it's like, where do I start?
Yeah.
These are I genuinely believe like these are the types of problems we should be looking to fix with technology. And the beauty is you can fix them with technology really simply and borderline for free. By giving people like structured information and lists and stuff like that. And it's weird that I don't know, I can't put my finger on like where we lost that. I can't speak for everyone, but broadly, it does seem like that list mentality is something we've lost, because all of the rhetoric and messaging that you see online at the moment about technology and recruitment is about speak to less candidates, speak to the best candidates, speak to only the people who are bang on appropriate for the job you want to talk to them about. But part of the beauty of the job is obviously having those more opportunistic, accidental conversations that aren't 100% targeted at that individual, but lead you to another point that enable you to make more money or find out something else. And that's the type of event that enables you to build better market intel, catch something before it happens. Like that's when you get info from a person, particularly on the inside, the likelihood is they know what's going on before anything happens on the internet, before anything goes on Crunchbase to go, hey, these guys have got investment or whatever it is. So I think it's just
Insights into this bit. Like,
dismiss that. Like, don't use technology to speak to less people. I think we should be using it to speak to more people, but enable that in a really easy way.
100%, 100%. It's and that's where I think leadership should empower and understand the impact of the systems they pick, the tech stacks they build, because like I always look at any CRM system as like, right, okay, what do I want this to do? Right, I want my guys. I don't want to do admin, right? So for me, like one of the most basic things is it has to have a one-click ad from, say, LinkedIn to. I don't want my people having to parse resumes or like it's this. You know, that's an old way of doing it. I want my I want my thickest member of my team to be able to use it easily. So I'll normally even get like who do I think is the most technophobic, and I want them on the demo with me. And I'm like, how are you getting on with like, because if they can't adopt it easily and organically, like again, that for me is an issue. But like just being able to set the system up in a certain way that impact, because actually I think the issue with that team is like, I think there are elements where it is behavioral, right? And there are some like limiting beliefs and or this won't work in our market and all the rest of it. But I also think they're being asked to do one thing and they're like, we don't know how, because structurally it's been designed by an engineer. And I saw a post recently, I think we spoke about it, right? The post where AI is not moving the needle at the moment because I can't remember, it was on LinkedIn. Um, anyway, because these systems and these things are not being designed by people that understand the impacts of the behavior that it is that you're trying to, and that's the only thing that moves the needle is behavior. Like everything that we're doing leads to a conversation, like until it doesn't, until recruitment changes and it breaks, whatever. But right now, I'd say at least for the next however many years, if people are like, I want to send an email, that email will lead to a conversation. It will lead to a phone call. The text message will lead to a phone call. So if you can circumnavigate that, like I do a bit of work with a company in the hedge fund space, and these are big fees, right? And I've been working with one lad, and after maybe I think 4 or 5 months, he's now got like a real phone first mentality. And exactly as you just said, like people are like, whoa, like okay. And he said, "Is like I spoke to this guy and asked him, so how many calls have you had this week from my competitors?" He goes, "None." He goes, "How many emails do you get a day?" He goes, "Probably 30 a day. Don't even read them." You think, well, so like the way the industry is going is really interesting. You said something earlier that it's actually rattled me, right? I'm going to come back. Permission based selling. Like, I understand that in some industries it works. And I see the gatekeepers of knowledge of our industry, right? So there's some people, some big platforms, some big audiences, and who are also like they decide who features on their platform um, and what knowledge is shared, right? And I look at a particular individual at the moment that's doing the rounds, and he's not a recruiter. He's never done recruitment, and a lot of recruiters are lapping this stuff up. And initially, I was fighting it, right? I was thinking like, no, 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 permission based opens. But now I've just shut up because I now think if the whole market is doing this thing, right, I actually want them to carry on because it makes the cold call so easy to stand out when everyone's like, hey, this is a cold call. Hey, this is a cold call. Hey, this is a cold call. Can I have 27 seconds to you? I'm so sorry. Like, would you rather throw your phone out the window or have a call with me? It's like, what do you want? What do you actually want? Why have you called me? So I think it's really I think what we're gonna see.
The capability statement at S3 there.
What's that? Sorry,
We go back to capability statement at S3, so it's still embedded in me after 21 years.
can you
But
remember it?
yeah, it was capability statement. Don't ask me to break it down to the specific methodology, like this the specific steps, but it was made in brief summary. Make sure you know the reason for your call and get that out then. Not because the reason for your call can't be this is a cold call. Do you want to talk to me or not? Because how interesting is that? But anyway, let's not get hung up on that subject because you kind of we could talk about that all day long.
I know,
But
mate. I know. It's
you
like
you mentioned earlier about like behaviors and tech and tools and all. And I feel like we've been like overloaded with tech. Like if
Mm.
I guess we're harping on the S3 thing a bit, but if I look at what my desk setup that was then, I had a few job boards, which I think I accessed through Broadbean. I had easy access as a database. I had a phone and Microsoft Outlook. I had LinkedIn, but didn't use it really for anything. I don't think I'd done a deal with LinkedIn until about 2013. Whereas now, if you was to look at the tech stack, someone's got at their desk to do video interviews, make a CV, scrape data, get email into like email addresses, all sorts of things. Like you can get like profiles on like emotional profiles on
yeah.
people, what their information they got on LinkedIn. There's kind of this swamp of information that I think like if it doesn't align with the behaviors and activities that you're trying to drive, then maybe you should think twice about investing in it. And sometimes like simpler is better. But unfortunately, simpler and better quite often requires more thought and more depth as to how you're gonna make the right choices to really embed the tools that you're using in your business to drive the right behaviors, create the right customer experiences. That requires like a really different level of deep thought. You can't
Mm.
you said earlier about what mistakes are people making, that people were making emotional purchases based on getting drawn into the sales process, or quite often it literally be a case of, oh, everyone else has got this tool, so we need it. But no one, I see very rarely do I see people challenge, why do we need it? Why do we need to do more mail shots? How many mail shots do we do at the moment? And what's our conversion? Okay. Are you working on the assumption that if you 10x the amount of mail shots you're doing, you're still expecting the same conversion rate? Probably not. And
Mm.
what's the flip side of that? How many clients am I going to piss off by doing nothing but email them? I worked with a company last year who work in a real niche, placing commercial staff, and I looked to So we went through an exercise where we let's look at, I think it was about 30 resumes you've sent out this month for like mid to senior level salespeople. And let's take the last two companies those candidates have worked for. They're all competitor organizations. They're effectively all target companies that you'd want to go after. So let's look at those last two companies from those 30 people. So cumulatively, it's like 50 to 60 companies we're looking at. What's the activity that we've got going with those 50 to 60 companies to try and grow our presence in this market? And like the numbers kind of blew my mind, because it worked out on average, we'd sent 120 emails, this is over the course of a year, to each one of the contacts within those 50 to 60 companies, but only ever spoken to one.
Do you know what? And what will happen? This is, I think, is what happens, right? Is that someone will go, I got that guy on the phone from an email. Email works, and then I'm gonna do more of that. And what happens is like everything works. This is the thing. Like you can have the worst process in the world, and you will get clients from it. Like it does, like just through sheer luck, right? You will get conversations with people. And then what happens is like I take like automated outreach. I think there are some good systems out there, but when someone says to me, should we get should I get a tool like Sourcebreaker, Sourcewell, for instance? I know you're Phyllis those guys, right? My answer is, well, I guess it depends on how good the consultant is, because all you're going to do is like giving them a megaphone. You're going to amplify that person. So if are you going to get results from it? Yes, but what's the cost? Like we've got some fruit, but the cost was I burnt down the whole entire orchard. And I've scorched the earth and I can't come back to it. So it all works. I think like it's a very I think it's a very fragile kind of position that we're in at the moment, where people are winning business off these tools, but they don't understand actually. I mean, even at a business level, like the domain's being wrecked, and
But yeah, the real question about it is, you're winning business off it now, but is it something that's going to create some real substance to your business in terms of your, I don't particularly like the term, but your value proposition? Is it something that's going to embed the right behaviors in your business? Because I'd say a byproduct of what you've just mentioned is that people are picking up the phone less because they think that BD is email and in-mail. And to me, that's kind of like belts and braces. It's like, well, I'll do that if I don't get through to the person. But also, if I had those types of tools, I would use them in a different way, which wouldn't be spray and pray, where I'm hitting 300 people or 3,000 people one day, and then for the next week, no one. And then like I'd be hitting 5 to 10 people that were like super targeted every single day, and kind of just use it as it's intended to be used, which is to do more. But if you're gonna do more, you need to make sure that kind of that qualities don't do more and make it lazy, because it's too transparent now. Like when a message is genuine, that someone's actually written it, and you know when it's not. But to make it like real core point, it's like that's not to dismiss email for everyone. There are generally businesses that I know where email could be like their default method of signing up new candidates. If you've got, I don't know, you're replacing nurses or something like that, you've got a new shift, you need to fill it. What's the fastest way to get it out? Push it out on a mobile app.
some markets, like the dev markets as well, where they've got Slack and they don't have mobile phones, or they haven't got switchboards, right? And there's no data on like a Lusher. Like, then how are you supposed to get them? That's where I think you need to have, yeah, you need to have all the different tools and use them like in the right way. But some markets is definitely more suitable than others.
And it's definitely, you're seeing it starting to evolve now. Like even last year, I consider myself having like a really quirky skill set, right? I've been a recruiter, and as I said, up until recently, I've run some relatively decent sized businesses up to 120 people. I've touched on almost every operational function, bar finance, and they've really got that involved within, because it doesn't really interest me. outside of the kind of sales results. But it's interesting to see that I've completely lost my fucking train of thought as to what I was saying. But carry on. Remind me where I started, Dan.
So back at the beginning, back at S3. So you're need a moment to catch your breath. Ready to go from good to unstoppable? At Bamboo Performance, our one-on-one coaching, exclusive live events, and dynamic online recruitment training platform help recruiters smash every target every time. Visit our website now and discover your highest potential. Let's get back to the show. So you're coming like so your current business then, like at the moment you're specializing in working with companies that use Bullhorn as their CRM, as their ATS. So
so we were talking about skill sets. That's where I got lost in my own train of thought.
that's it.
But yeah, so what I was saying was it's interesting to see that over the last year in particular, I've noticed at least 4 or 5 individuals pop up in the kind of larger firms. So to me, a larger firm is someone over 150 people who have been put in charge of automation, AI, systems optimization. And it's interesting because you come from a background of like SaaS sales, like software sales, yeah. And like if you speak to any software sales team, doesn't matter whether they're 2 people or 2,000 people, they typically have someone working in what they define as sales operations, and they focus on their scale. How do we do what we do? How do we embed our sales process in the CRM? How do we get the intelligence we need? How do we make sure marketing are engaged with it? How do we make sure that our email campaigns are going to the right types of individuals based on where we're at in our relationship with them? And I think like if there's one thing to learn from recruitment is to learn from that. And that's why I'd say for like 10 years now, I've like pro bono site gigged, like giving people advice around technology. Like people phone me for me, it was a complete happy accident. When after I left Tuxedo, I got involved with a company called Austin Fraser. We grew that I was the 6th person there. We grew it to 140-ish people by the time I left, and it went on to be about 200. I need to stop there. 4 in the morning, Dan.
He's
your energy is good.
He's amazing. Yeah. Might leave it in for shits and gigs. Who knows?
Where's it going with that?
Either.
Yeah. Where do I start out? Oh, this is getting loose. You're gonna have to cut this part out.
That's all right, mate. I'll get the answer on it.
We're talking about skill sets. We were talking about skill sets, people being put in charge of AI automation, sales optimization,
Sales ops.
Yeah. So take 2. After that Tuxie and got involved with a firm called Austin Fraser, which grew from 6 people to 120 people. I, by happy accident, got involved in technology because we basically, as part of our strategy in terms of who we wanted to attract and the behaviors we wanted to create, whereas technology for us was a real pain in the ass. Like we had on-prem kit that was really expensive to scale up with. It was literally like for every 10 people we hired, we had to spend 20 or 30 grand on new storage on site, for new kit, for people to access the IT systems. It became like a real bugbear for our growth because that's a big amount of cash to lay out for what I've to be like a scalable business. So we kind of set out this goal of look, we want to create an at desk experience that's as close to using your mobile phone as possible. And from that, a few timely events happened. So one was I went to an event at Google, and they showed us Google for Business, which was like online collaboration, cloud storage, collaborate on documents, do stuff together, work from anywhere. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then Bullhorn come onto the scene in the UK, and I'm pretty sure we were their first large UK customer, and the guy who got their CRO was my sales rep. He come out to pitch us Bullhorn, and at the time, it was just really timely. They were the first cloud-only solution that had gone to market. Everything else was hybrid of on-prem with a web interface. So I think in looking at, and for me, that was like a start of a journey with recruitment technology, but looking at it through a lens of how do we use technology to drive the right behaviors at desk. Going back to the mobile phone thing, it was all about, for me, the mobile phone thing come from you download an app on your phone, it either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, you delete it. If it works, you probably keep it. You can use like Strava as like a good example if you're into like bike riding or whatever. But again, like Strava drives behavior, drives competitiveness, simple to use, it's intuitive, all these types of things. And that's how we felt the experience should be at desk. So I kind of got obsessed about that. And it's something I've retained. And then more recently, I've now moved into the realms of consulting with businesses independently. They're predominantly over, I'd say around about 20 staff, 20 through to 200 staff who are really looking for technology to be part of their growth strategy and to really drive the behaviors and get rid of some of these challenges. Because look, you mentioned earlier that, and you and I both know that a lot of the technology is being deployed to market. A lot of it's built by people that have no exposure to recruitment whatsoever, and they don't know what it's like to be a recruiter. And that means you're going to get that mobile app scenario with, if it doesn't work, no one's going to use it. Yeah, if it doesn't benefit me more than the effort it takes to put in, I ain't going to use it. I'm focused on making money, getting my commission, etc., etc. Do something to enable me. It doesn't have to be apps or anything like that. The baseline starting point is to like get your CRM in order. And now with automation and AI come into place, I just felt there was a kind of like a natural tipping point to go, do you know what? I've got a really odd skill set of tech, ops, running sales teams, growing markets, US, UK. But I understand the impact of change in tech, having seen it like multiple times, what works, what doesn't work, and how to do it in a way that's kind of like non-intrusive, and it becomes quite natural and intuitive, and you start to see like marginal gains. And that's a long-winded way of explaining why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I think you're actually bang on in terms of your timing, because it's a genuine, people are it's not like something that, okay, it's new, but people are like, they're still wrapping their head around it and going, well, how do we get our but like you say, it might not necessarily be the extra layer of AI and automation. It might be, well, we can get to that. Before we do, should we fix all this stuff that is fundamentally baked into your system and wrong? And being able to look at it almost from a really basic level to go, right, okay, the end goal we want to get to here, you're here at the moment. Well, the logical steps are we do this bit first, then we do this, then we do this. But it might be that, like, I think that question, what is the problem you're trying to solve, is a really interesting one, because it might be that it's not necessary. And I think that there's a lot of people. I mean, how many customers have Bullhorn actually got?
I honestly don't know. They obviously, as far as I couldn't tell you, I couldn't quote how many users they got. I'm pretty sure ChatGPT will tell you how accurate it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
What I know is, so what I can tell you is from the Recruiter Top 100 that monitors the best yield per head, which CD have been pretty much top 5.
Then again, yeah.
And
Well, on that, anything else?
Legacy there. Is 65% of that top 100 are on Bullhorn. And I think that's probably indicative of like the rest of the market. And look, would I say that at the time they launched, it was the best product on the market? No, probably not. But it was the first cloud-only solution, and that gave them a platform to scale it. And they just, like most recruitment businesses, it's been a case of good product or service and great people. Because interestingly, most of the people that I was involved with from day one, whether it was support, customer success, product, whatever, they're still there now. They've obviously they progressed and they got different roles. But most of them, if they're not with Bullhorn, they're still in the same ecosystem. And for me, that kind of says a lot about the company. They're different now to what they were. They're obviously huge by comparison to what they were. But that enables them now to do, I guess, more interesting things like the acquisitions they've made and with Sourcebreaker, Daxtra, and how they're integrating that back into the product. But they're doing it in a way that's really like controlled and thought out rather than just being like deploying something in beta and take your feedback from the customers and cross your fingers that it works.
Yeah, I think that the refined kind of thing, I think, is if you look at like the products. I'm an Apple man myself personally. You an Android head.
Once you've had Mac, you will never go back.
That's the right. Okay, good lad. So for me, one of the key reasons for that is because I don't necessarily care how much it can do. I care about how well it does it, and I care about what are the core things that I'm actually gonna use it for. And for me, like the integration and the experience of the product is worth more than like, yeah, your Samsung might be faster, like on paper, but the apps aren't faster because they've had to develop them for 1,000 different resolution screen sizes, so they can't optimize it. So even though the phones are more powerful, like if you optimize something that's it's better and you get a better experience, like removing the headphone jack, like so refining something down and making it more basic. So I'm a big fan of that, like make sure it works model, make sure that it's clean, and that's what we did with RecWide when we designed. Because yeah, when I flew to Gibraltar to pitch Delta on it, I said, look, here are some real issues I've got. Here are the current product offerings that are available. And personally, as someone who does know what they're doing, who sits in this seat, it's not fit for purpose. Like there's a huge gap for something which is and it's not instead of an L&D. Like it's a complementary thing, but there are some people that are not ready to go to like to take on a trainer, even if it's a consultant for like a couple of hours a week. No, people like me, we're expensive, right? So, but there's how can you get like really good training for a fraction of the price, and it's essentially like a kind of almost like a timeshare model where you share it with other people, but you get like the best value from that product. And if you want like the layer above that, then I mean, I've got customers that use both, right? They'll use me privately and they'll use the RecWire platform. I've got some people that will do one, not the other, because they're like, no, that's not right for me, but I want this, and vice versa. So I think just going back to your point there, like having things.
Again, it comes down to like, okay, so it's not necessarily about behaviors, but it is about experience. Like you talk about having a Mac, like you're given a Mac at work, it probably makes you feel more special than being given some, I don't know, Dell, whatever the hell they roll out now. I'd be disappointed if, in fact, I wouldn't take the job if anyone offered me something that wasn't Mac. I'd generally make that like prerequisite. But with the platform, it's about having, I think, like not only something that can give you the core fundamentals and basics in a way that's actually engaging, because the thing that kind of like blew my mind about it was like the quality of the production. It feels a bit like YouTube-y in the way that it's put together and like chops and chat. It's something you'd actually watch. Like you're never gonna. I've probably still got the S3 books up in my loft somewhere, but I don't think I've ever read them. Like I would have read them while I was in the classroom, but everything else is experiential. But for me, I guess for me, like looking at tools like that is this kind of bit of like a belt and braces thing. It's like if you were having a push on exclusivity or retainers or meetings or the quality of your jobs or candidate sell-ins, whatever it is that you're trying to have like a push on in that moment, the likelihood is there's some content in there to support it. So it's not so saying that you use all of the time, but it's very easy to deploy like as and when you need it, and can push you subjects if you want that could help enable your business. It might be, I don't know if you've never thought about pitching for retained work, but you watch the thing, you give it a go, and I don't know, one person wins it and it causes like a bit of a cool effect. So, and this is, I guess that's where I think like the kind of tools choices thing it's got to be strategic, yeah. And I think that's that's the biggest change the industry needs to make, is look at the tools, the technology and tools that you're using to solve problems you have, to enable the behaviors you want to drive at a desk level. And I think the next era, it's already happening a little bit, is like the digital experiences you want to create for your customers. Like, good example, there's a really cool space recruitment company in Bristol called Avona, that I don't work with them at the moment, but they have recently launched a fully like digital product. So they've got a contract business, and they've got a perm business, perm contracts, and they've got retained as well. It sits under a different, so the retained piece sits under a different brand. I can't recall what that's called. They've recently launched a completely digital service called Fraction, and basically enables you to source and interact with fractional executives to operate within the space industry. So if I need, I don't know, a CTO on a fractional basis, CFO, but I want someone from the space industry, they're in that platform. And as far as I'm aware, from like, don't quote me on it, but as far as I'm aware, it's free to use. But if you think about it in terms of like productizing and customer experience, what they're doing is they're still providing talent services, but they're drawing people to that in a different way than their other methods. But I imagine in the way that the information flows back through the business, once the kind of relationship in there and someone can kind of perceive the value, then it's going to draw them to other services. And I think like that's a massive opportunity for recruitment, even to the point where yesterday I spoke to a boss of mine about the potential of like monetizing the candidate side rather than the client side.
How will that work?
So I don't want to give the way that I do.
You'll tell me offline. Like, don't tell the audience.
So no. So believe it or not, well, look, I'm sure. Let's take like CV writing and stuff like that out of the equation, right? But in theory, it's like one of the most frequently used methods in recruitment to gain a hiring manager's attention is speccing out a CV. Yeah, I used to. I'm reminiscing too much, but I'm pretty sure we used to fax them and post them at Huxley, as well as mailer. They used to get great results as well. Someone went sent out a blank mail shot by accident, like no subject, no body, nothing. It just says from Andy. And the guy come back with a job saying, "Hi Andy, we are recruiting for a support guy at the moment," because they used to get so many of them. Anyway, the candidate side is it. So the specking thing, it's like, well, if you think about it, it's like, particularly given the state of unemployment at the moment, whether it's here or whether it's in the US, if I'm a candidate and I know, let's say I work in software sales, right? And I know that you, as a recruiter, have got access to thousands of decision makers who hire in that capacity. What's going to stop me from paying for access to that? Right? And flipping the whole scenario on its head. Now, am I proposing that any candidate's going to pay the sort of money that a client would pay for an introduction? No. But if you aggregate that as like a kind of subscription-based service, there might be something interesting to explore there.
I'm a big fan of anybody thinking outside the box and doing something different. I've got a couple of ideas for some products around like kind of things that I think, why hasn't this been done before? Maybe there's a good reason for that, but
normally, yeah,
I'm a simple man. I don't know, just like to explore these things. Let's build shit. So
hey, look, but I think some of the best ideas start as an accident. As far as I'm aware, the story of Bullhorn is it kind of started out in a sort of like almost like a Facebooky style, where it was supposed to be a more social media type enterprise for specific individuals, something to do with universities or something, and then it evolved into something else.
Wow.
Look at Sourcebreaker, started out as just giving market intelligence on spreadsheets, and then evolved into like the digital product it is now. So it might, and I think so if you think of like Sourcebreaker is a good example, because effectively the baseline product didn't, in terms of what you get, which is market intelligence around competitors and stuff like that didn't change. It just evolved in the way that they presented it, right? Which comes into experience, accessibility, all that type of stuff. And I think that there's plenty of people who've had a go at like digitizing recruitment. I'm sure there's plenty of people that still are. But rather than trying to digitize the whole thing, it might be that based on if your niche has sort of like particular demands, there might be opportunities to think about, okay, well, can I service that with a digital experience rather than a traditional experience? And it won't be in every instance, but for the life of me, I can't figure out why no one's digitized like placing drivers at the moment on like an app. Like they all got a license type. They're all going to have some availability. You've got their location on their mobile phone. All I need is the candidate data and the people who are hiring.
Yeah, it's I know there's like on in the pharmacy world, like the one of my clients was very big in that space, like the biggest in the UK, but on the locum side, which is the temp side, they didn't touch it because there was a business out there called Locator Locum who'd done exactly that. They created an app and it went through to book shifts, like you could do like payroll stuff on it. Like it was a one-stop shop for the whole thing. And like you say, it digitized it. And I often thought the same thing, like why can't you take that model and roll it across other spaces? But I think the answer to that is because building tech is not always the cheapest thing. But with the new,
It's high risk as well. It's
yeah.
really good risk. I worked for a recruitment company that had an umbrella of a technology company. It was a great 2.5, 3 year journey. It was amazing. Um, I was the only person to actually sell the technology solution to a client, but it was the tech that ended up taking like the whole group down. It was about 400 people at the time, and this was I don't know, 2 months before COVID kicked off. Story for another time. But yeah, it's high risk and it's expensive. So that the kind of accessing stuff through SaaS, I think is interesting. But if you get to the point where economies of scale work, like, I don't know, take someone like Jackson Healthcare in the US, like one of the biggest healthcare recruitment firms around. They built all their own. They would have started, I imagine, with an external platform that you use as a tool, and then realized, hey, this actually really works for our customers. How much would it cost for us to build it ourselves? And then just built their own like IP and experience around it. I'm sure works better with their internal systems. But I do think, like we need to, like as an industry, like really start to think deeper about how technology enables us rather than solves a problem for a moment in time.
Mm.
Because if Amazon, I mentioned Amazon earlier, I'm pretty sure. If Amazon delivered their customer experience in a way where it's like, okay, you've looked at that product once, so for the next 2 years, I'm just going to bang you messages about that product, and I'm going to send you 8 messages a month about the same thing, and they'll reply to the ones that aren't responded to, you get pissed off because maybe it was relevant for that moment in time, but it isn't anymore. And it's the same thing with job seekers and people who are hiring. There's a problem in a particular instance. It doesn't necessarily mean they're always going to have that problem. Their needs will change.
Yeah, it's very, very, very fair point, I'd say. Um, so that you've got an audience of thousands of people listening to you. We're only a few episodes deep.
It's you and I.
We'll see. Yeah. There's one person listening. What are you going to tell that? What's the
Yeah.
message you're going to leave that one person with? Hopefully a few more of you guys. But what's your departure? I think maybe you've maybe said it. Like what you just said there was
I think,
pretty it.
right. I think for me, it'd be really, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like people aren't so obsessed about scaling headcount anymore. Exit. I don't think they're necessarily like top of everyone. Everyone's. It's always in their side view mirror, if you want, or rear view mirror, if you built the company itself. But my take, based on my own personal journey, yeah, and the people that I've been exposed to, the individuals who've really built a business that is sustainable and scalable think as much about how they do things as much as they do about what they do. So their focus is, it's not wholly based on, hey, these are the markets we're going after and this is what we're going to do, we're going to get this amount of market share. But they normally have someone who's really thinking about the detail of how they do that internally. So the activities they're going to drive, how they're going to monitor that, where are your conversion points, what are the key things we're going to be looking at, and to kind of test, measure, learn from that and tweak it as you go. Down to thinking about whether it's the candidate or client experience you want to deliver, or even if it's your presence on social media and the different reach that's going to give you. But everything comes down, I guess my ops hat is very much, it's like not what we do, but how we do it. And if you can nail the how we do things, it doesn't matter if you're a one-person business that managed to scale to 10. The reality is you can be much more confident in not having an interdependency between you and the rest of that team and the business carry on running. You could probably, if you wanted to, walk away. If you've nailed the how, you can walk away probably for 6 months and it'll carry on running as it's going. It would probably give you a better platform to scale. But I guess I've probably come to the conclusion that as salespeople, which I am one, but I've kind of lent more into this tech and ops world, is that detail level how stuff isn't something that's like natural to us. And that's why I felt like a lot of businesses kind of get stuck. They get built around 1 biller, 2 good billers, 5 good billers, 10 good billers. But I guess the question you've got to ask yourself is like, if my model's based on hiring experience and one of those people leaves, what have they left behind them? And how am I going to backfill that without having like a clone of that? Because if you've got a dependence in the
Real skill, I think, in that is driving the behavior of leaving clues for what you're doing in a way that empowers the recruiter. Because if the message is, if you get hit by a bus, what am I gonna do? Like, well, all right, buddy, I'll just avoid the buses for a while. But if it's like, if you do this, it will make you more money because we can return better data, better searches, X, Y, Z. And leadership for me is a sales job, and it's about selling process, selling behaviors to your people, because I think people don't understand that their product isn't the candidates. The product is the recruiters. That's the product, and there's a capacity for every single person what they can build, but your cap will be the best potential for every single person that you've got. You add them up, that's your potential of the company. So the only way for you to grow beyond certain, and I think technology can obviously enable this as well. I think you'll find a lot more. I think we'll find smaller companies, leaner companies, where a recruiter is able to do more in the future. But I think it's a fascinating time in the industry. So I've really, really appreciated you, mate, giving up your time for us and the audience. Great conversation. Si, your info is going to be in the show notes. Any of you Bullhorn users out there that want to make sure that you are absolutely optimizing as much as you possibly can and not missing deals, leaving stuff in the system, and it's driving those right behaviors, like Si's the guy. So I guess we'll leave it there. So thanks so much, mate.
Cheers, Dan. I appreciate the chat as always. I'm sure it'll carry on the phone at some point as well. But yeah, if you need me at all, I'll ping you across my details and that. Feel free to reach out. We can geek out about sales operations and that. It's interesting. If you've got like, for me, the kind of cool part about it is, and look, I know we're kind of wrapping up, but it was always banged into me, I'd say like pre-2015 to pre-2016, that it's like operations doesn't make money. Sales makes money. Operations doesn't make money. But the reality is, it's like, a recruitment business is a recruitment business. It's a sales business. It doesn't matter what your role in it. You're still working in a sales operation. Yeah. So effectively, everyone has a role to play in that. And if you get the how part right, it can make everything like so much easier, like hiring, retention. I always think, we're going to go off on a tangent, but if you imagine if like Google started a recruitment business, what that would look like when you walked in on day one. It's like you'd have all your data mapped out. You add a lead to the system, it gets followed up automatically, all this type of stuff. But for me, I guess that's the interesting part, is if you've got some economies of scale, you can make some of these like small little tweaks and it has a big impact. There you go.
Doing it by design, that's the key. It's being conscious about what you're doing, and not just your tech stack's evolved just like organically. Like, have you really sat down, thought about your business, and thought about the infrastructure, and thought about why and how we're doing this stuff? But no, fascinating insights. I'm gonna get your details in the show notes, guys, for Sai. I've been Dan Alexander. You've been Sai Curtis. And you, audience, have been wonderful listeners. We'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.
Good night.
Okay, guys, that is a wrap for this episode. Now it's time to take what you've learned and keep pushing forwards. Remember, Bamboo Performance is here to support you every step of the way, whether that's through our one-to-one coaching, exclusive live events, or our online training platform. If you're ready, visit our website, and until next time, stay unstoppable. This episode is proudly sponsored by Orca, the online recruitment coaching academy. Get access to live coaching, online courses, and playbooks from the industry's top coaches. Your entire organization can get access for less than the price of one email per day. Sign up today at trainwithorca.com.